Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's time for my daddy's podcast.
Welcome back to the Lessons for Success podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, a middle school science teacher and a high school football coach in South Carolina. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast heard by over 2,000 students, teachers, and coaches worldwide. The goal is to provide quick daily lessons to help you achieve more in your life. Be sure to reach out to the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok by searching L4S Show or using the hashtag L4S Show. Remember, it's the number 4. If you're listening on an iPhone, be sure to give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts in order to keep our community growing. Now let's start the show. 3 budgeting tips every student or young person needs to know. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Tuesday Tips here on the Lessons for Success podcast. I'm always trying to look for new information to pass along to you guys that's useful for your life. In today's episode, I'm going to share some budgeting tips that students or young adults should implement in order to make sure they have a healthy financial life. Even if you're one of the listeners out there who this may not specifically apply to, you may be able to take something away to use as well. So here we go. 3 budgeting tips that every student should know. Number 1, overestimate your expenses. You're going to notice a trend in these tips. Be financially conservative. It's much better to assume the worst when it comes to your bills. When you're budgeting out your utilities, always assume the worst case scenario. Maybe you want to set a budget for $70 a month on your water bill. Then you realize that your water bill actually turns out to be roughly $50 a month. There's nothing wrong with that. You definitely shouldn't change your budget either. This will help you curb spending in other areas. Number 2, underestimate your income. So this tip plays along with the idea of being conservative. Maybe your new job will bring home $2,000 a month. You should budget like you're going to bring home less than that. Why? Well, when you're setting aside how much you'll spend on different aspects of your life, if you're working with a smaller overall amount, then you'll be more cautious when you're budgeting out your spending. The extra money that is more than your budget should be diverted into a savings nest egg for emergency uses. And finally, tip number 3, differentiate between needs and wants. We all want that new electronic device or new outfit, but is it really necessary? When you're deciding what to spend your hard-earned money on, you should avoid unnecessary expenses that don't benefit your progress towards your goals. Take that $50 you saved by not buying that new video game and pay down a debt you may owe, or invest in some stock for a company that you trust. In the long run, this will only improve your financial health. Keep the unnecessary expenses at a minimum. No one's going to tell you to not enjoy yourself, but be mindful of your budget and stick to it. Well, there you have it, guys. 3 tips that just about anyone can benefit from when it comes to budgeting. For all the young listeners out there, I can't stress enough that you heed these tips. The last thing you want to do is be reckless when you first get started in the real world. This could set you back in life, and you may spend years getting yourself out of these ruts. Overestimate your expenses, underestimate your income, and focus on needs, not wants. Abide by these 3 budgeting guidelines, and you'll be in a lot better shape. Thanks for listening, everybody. Do you have any more budgeting tips? I'd love to hear them. Reach out to the show on social media and feel free to share them. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Time for a quick commercial.
That's right, Ellie. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And they'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today. Well, folks, that's it for another edition of the Lessons for Success podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember that you can keep up with the show wherever podcasts are found, as well as the newly updated Lessons for Success YouTube channel. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok to keep up with more content from the show. If you haven't already done so, give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That's all the time I have for today. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Lessons for Success show.